Hello everyone, welcome to the Icewine Knowledge Class. In our last episode, we introduced the Niagara Peninsula, with its unique climate and distinct geological features. Here, the perfect combination of climate and geology creates the ideal conditions for producing the world's finest ice wines. In this episode, we'll take a closer look at the VQA, the Vintners Quality Alliance of Canada. To ensure the healthy development of ice wine, strict standards have been set specifically for ice wine production, providing the essential foundation of people for the growth of Canadian ice wine. Part 3, Vintners Quality Alliance VQA. The strict VQA standards for Canadian ice wine. We all know that most of the world's great wine regions have set high standards for their finest wines. For example, France introduced the AOC system back in 1935, a designation that's still used today. Italy followed in 1963 with its DOC classification, and in 1971, Germany created the VDP system to define its top quality wines. In Ontario, the VQA system, the Vintners Quality Alliance, was officially launched in 1988. With the creation of VQA, Canada joined the ranks of the world's major wine-producing countries, establishing a series of strict regulations and setting the highest standards for its finest wines. And in 1990, British Columbia also joined the system. The system later introduced the concept of sub-appellations in 2005. Canada has two major grape-growing regions, located in Ontario and British Columbia. The VQA recognizes four designated grape-growing sub-appellations in Ontario: the Niagara Peninsula, Palais Island, Prince Edward County, and the Lake Erie North Shore. In British Columbia, the VQA recognizes for sub-appellations the Okanagan Valley, the Similkameen Valley, the Fraser Valley, and Vancouver Island. The strict regulatory framework sets rules for winemakers on how they can use these highly specific geographic names on their labels. Only classic European grape varieties, known as Vitis vinifera, are allowed to be grown in VQA-approved vineyards, and the wine must be made from 100% Canadian-grown grapes. For varietal wines, at least 85% of the wine must be made from the grape variety clearly stated on the label, and it must showcase the typical flavors and characteristics of that variety. If a winemaker wants to specify the vineyard used for a wine, the winery must be located within a VQA-approved sub-appellation, and 100% of the grapes must come from that vineyard. In other words, grapes cannot be blended from different vineyard regions. Wines are evaluated by an independent panel of experts, and only those that meet or exceed the standards can receive VQA certification. To produce ice wine in Ontario, wines must meet all of the following VQA requirements. First, the wine must be produced by VQA-registered growers and winemakers, and the grapes must come from VQA-certified sub-appellations. This ensures the wine is of high quality and truly reflects the flavor characteristics of the grape variety in that region. Second, the finished wine must have a Brix level of 32 or higher, and a residual sugar content of at least 125 grams per liter. The juice pressed for winemaking must have a minimum Brix of 35, and this must be measured on site in the fermentation tank. Let's first explain Brix, sugar levels, and residual sugar content. Brix, also called boiling, is a standard used in North America to measure the sweetness of grape juice and wine. Brix indicates the percentage of soluble solids in the juice. Since most of the soluble solids in the juice are sugars, Brix effectively represents the sugar content in grape juice or wine. Winemakers can use it to calculate the potential alcohol level of the wine. Let's take a look at the table on the screen. Different countries and regions have their own ways of expressing sugar levels. Germany uses Ocho, France uses Baum, while in North America, the system is more straightforward. You can use this table to convert between them. As we can see, the Brix and residual sugar levels of ice wine are more than 10 times higher than those of ordinary wines. This is what gives ice wine its uniquely sweet flavor. Generally, the potential natural alcohol of a wine can be estimated by dividing the Brix value at harvest by 2. Canada requires a minimum juice Brix of 35, which is higher than Germany and Austria's requirement of 29.58. This is what allows Canada to produce ice wines that are richer, more luxurious, and sweeter than those from Germany, Austria, and other countries. Third, the alcohol in ice wine must come entirely from the natural sugars in the grapes used to produce the wine. The juice used to produce ice wine must come from 100% naturally frozen grapes. No sugar, honey, or any additive beyond the grape's naturally occurring sugars is allowed. The resulting ice wine, in terms of alcohol, sweetness, and aromatic flavors, must reflect 100% of the natural characteristics of the grapes themselves. Fourth, harvesting of ice grapes is only permitted after November 15th. This means that vineyards must have a certain cold hardiness. The grapes need to survive temperatures before November 15th without being damaged by frost. This ensures the grapes have a sufficient growing period and accumulated sugars. It also requires wineries to have strong frost and freeze protection capabilities. Setting the earliest harvest date also ensures that ice wine is made from juice pressed from grapes naturally frozen on the vine without any human intervention. After ice wine became popular worldwide, many wineries began artificially freezing grapes after harvest. In 2000, Canada, Germany, and Austria signed an international agreement on ice wine production standards and quality to protect consumers worldwide from counterfeit ice wine. These international standards also cleared major obstacles for Canadian ice wine to enter the European market. Shortly after the agreement was signed, the United States ruled that ice wine made from artificially frozen grapes cannot be labeled as ice wine. In 2003, the International Organization of Vine and Wine (OIV) in Paris supported this position, banning wines made from artificially frozen grapes from being called ice wine, or vin de glace in French and ice wine in German. Fifth, the minimum temperature for harvesting ice wine grapes is -8 degrees Celsius. As we mentioned in the previous episode, Niagara's climate is ideal for producing ice wine, because the region can consistently stay below -8 degrees Celsius in winter, yet rarely drops below -20 degrees Celsius, which would damage the grapevines. In the world of ice wine, there's a commonly used formula for calculating sugar levels. By measuring the pressing temperature, winemakers can determine the relative density of the grape juice. Then, using a reference chart, they can convert that relative density into an accurate Brix value. Based on this formula, we can understand that the Brix level of ice wine juice is generally not determined by the grape variety or the natural sugar inside the grapes. Instead, it is determined almost entirely by the temperature at pressing, because ice wine juice is highly concentrated. The lower the pressing temperature, the higher the sugar level, resulting in a wine that is richer, sweeter, and more luscious. Of course, lower temperatures also mean lower yields and greater difficulty in production, which is exactly what makes true ice wine so precious. For example, if a batch of ice grapes is pressed at -9 degrees Celsius, the formula gives us a relative density of 1.174. Then, using the density to Brix conversion chart we mentioned earlier, we can calculate that the juice has a sugar level of 39 Brix. Every country sets its own rules for the maximum temperature at which ice grapes may be harvested and pressed. Germany, Austria, and the International Organization of Vine and Wine (OIV) all set this limit at -7 degrees Celsius. Canada, however, requires an even colder limit of -8 degrees Celsius. So when we compare the maximum harvest and pressing temperatures, along with the minimum Brix requirements, we can clearly see that Canada's standards are stricter than those of Germany, Austria, and other European ice wine producing regions. As we mentioned earlier, the lower the temperature during pressing, the higher the sugar concentration in the juice. But this also means the production cost increases dramatically, and the overall yield of the winery drops significantly. The lower the temperature, the more the grape juice is frozen, and the less juice can be pressed. According to Canadian and EU regulations, grapes may undergo partial or full freezing in the vineyard before they are harvested for true ice wine production. Winemakers can decide the exact moment of harvest. In Canada, they may harvest anytime after November 15th, as long as the temperature is -8 degrees Celsius or lower. In Germany and Austria, as long as the temperature reaches -7 degrees Celsius or lower, the grapes can be harvested. Technically speaking, when it comes to juice sugar levels and harvest temperatures, Canada has the highest standards in the world for ice wine production. This is why Canadian ice wine is even more precious. To ensure that producers maintain the high quality of ice wine, the VQA requires that, before winemaking, producers must verify the following in writing using a specified form: the harvest temperature for each picking, the planted area and tonnage of each specific crop, the Brix level of each batch of grape juice, the harvest date and time, the winery's pressing capacity. The VQA may randomly send inspectors to take samples of grape juice and wine to ensure they meet the standards. They conduct laboratory analyses as well as on-site sensory evaluations. Laboratory tests include alcohol content, residual sugar, acidity and pH, checks for any artificial additives, among other indicators. Experienced tasters among the inspectors conduct on-site sensory evaluations. They assess the samples based on appearance, aroma, taste, finish, and style consistency. These third-party inspectors are sometimes jokingly called the ice wine police, making it a rigorous test for Canadian ice wine producers. Additionally, regulations require that all VQA ice wine members attend the annual VQA Ice Wine Standards Conference. This system is not just a formality for labeling. It is essentially a quality endorsement for the entire production process, and a key reason why Canadian ice wine commands strong credibility in the international market. So next time you see that small VQA logo on a bottle, don't underestimate it. It represents an entire rigorous system of quality assurance and the pride that Canadians take in their ice wine. If you enjoyed this program, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you in the next episode.